coast to coast, it's your hosts, the Lombardi Leap and Mersey FB. This is Beyond the Frozen Tundra.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Frozen Tundra. It's just me, Matt, today, here with Justin from Badger Pack Sports.
Absolutely. It's good to be back here.
Let's talk about family night. We both watched it on TV. What were your immediate reactions?
I think the first thing that came back to me is Matthew Golden seems to be taking that step. I think many of you probably saw the viral clip on X or whatever you get your socials, or if you watched it live like we did, that 50-plus yard pass from Jordan Love over Javon Bullard made its ways around, and it was very impressive. And to me, it just talks about, like we discussed last episode, how he's taking that next step up. And what'd you think, though?
I totally agree with that. This is one thing I want to talk about. That clip to me, I saw it. Yes, impressive throw, impressive catch. In a game is likely a sack. Carl Brooks would have had him, which I think they probably should have called that as a sack. But being family night, they gave it the touchdown.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think the bigger, I guess it's twofold, but I think it shows how Love is trusting Golden down the field. And I'm hoping it shows an expanded route tree for Golden this year too.
For sure. He was constantly, it seemed like he was winning all night pretty much. Like he had, not that it's a high bar, but a couple clear wins against Keyshawn in one-on-ones and later in red zone period as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking to see how his role can grow. I guess I'm thinking too is like, to me, it's like I think we're past the point of asking whether Matthew Golden is going to have a big role or not. I think it's the point now of how big his role is actually going to be and what impact it's going to look like from a stat line perspective. Very disappointing regular season, I would say, from all of us. With the hype we had last year. So I'm hoping he at least gets some targets in the red zone. And the one thing I'm curious to see with him is that I don't know how much gets talked about is the yards after catch from Golden. He had that speed and separation in his route running, but I think there's some yak that can be, taken advantage of from his point. And I'm looking forward to seeing that, being used to his disposal.
Yeah, going back to his film at Texas, he was much more of a yak guy when he was there that last year because Quinn couldn't get it down the field to him like the quarterback at Houston could. So you're right in the fact that yak is going to become a big part of his game and kind of similar to what like Watson might be able to do after the catch.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. Moving from Golden, what did you think of Cisse? I know that's another name that just popped up from family night and even just training camp, but what did you see out of Brandon Cisse on the defensive side of the ball?
I think he's done very well. I have said on this show that I love his football character, and I think that's starting to bleed through into the way he plays. He practices hard. I think he's firmly solidifying himself as a week one starter, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. He was keeping up. I mean, Christian Watson, it seems like him and Christian go back and forth in practice, which you love to see, right? Like the best receiver in the core.
Best on best.
And from a rookie coming in as a second round pick, it's really good to see him embrace that. If you just watch him and you didn't know anything about the guy, you wouldn't guess he's a rookie.
No. I mean, maybe a little bit just based off he doesn't quite have like that NFL frame yet. Like it's not like he's been with NFL weight room for a while, but he's still pretty impressive as a corner. I think part of it too that I really like is how he was able to like track routes. You see some of the clips of him going against Savion in practice, and I can't remember who it was on family night where he batted one down.
Yeah, I can't remember the name either, but I do know what you're talking about.
I want to stay on receivers here for a second because I think as the practice progressed, it was very clear to see that they might have something in both Sturdivant and Isaiah Nayor. When you look at the receivers kind of down the depth chart of, wow, these guys can really pop and show that they can play at this level.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bo Melton is also a special teams piece too, is how much will Bo Melton provide there? Because to your point, Sturdivant and Nayor have really shown out in camp. I mean, Sturdivant is a guy that I know Blayne's high on. I think we actually all are, that is making plays. And I know we talked about him last episode. So to your point, I mean, if Bo Melton's going to be on this roster, you're absolutely right. Like either he's going to have to move to corner or his special team value is so high to the coaching staff. And we have a new special teams coordinator. So there's a lot of new in that room as well. So it depends on how he fits in that puzzle. And that's something I think we're going to look forward to as these preseason games get going too, of what should those bottom, 4, 5, and 6 receivers are going to, elevate and make them clear that they're going to be playing receiver on the roster.
I think Sky Moore is a lock based off what Goody said and how much value he has as a returner. Plus, he's been making some plays through practice. It did get ugly when Bo wasn't out there on special teams in terms of punt coverage through the last couple of games when he hurt himself. So maybe they'll look at that and be like, yeah, we don't want that to happen again. I don't know how much faith Acord has in him, but good special teamers are always good to keep around. You can't have enough of them.
Especially the state of our special teams over the last few years.
Oh, man, it's been wild. Speaking of special teams, I think Smack showed what he needed to. Like, I think he had a good practice. He was 6 for 7 and 7 for 8 if you count the one that the offense had the false start on.
Yeah, and I think
that he made.
Yeah, and I think you're making a key distinction because I watched all the kicks, and when that flag happened with the false start, I closely watched that kick next because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this kick will determine because there's a little out of rhythm. It was some adversity he was facing, and he drilled that. I think it went from a 43-yard to a 48, if I'm not mistaken, and he drilled it. And I was like, okay, I feel good about that.
Yes.
You got to imagine the nerves are flying. I think before training or before family night, he was out 3 hours, I think, before just kind of walking the field and
just visualizing, walking around.
I couldn't even imagine the thoughts going through his mind. So just seeing him have that good performance at family night, definitely something that makes you feel good. Obviously, a lot more to come from him. The book is not finished yet with Trey Smack in this training camp, but I think it was a good chapter to a very important milestone for his progression this summer.
True. And when you outside of like one bad day for camp, he's only ever missed like one kick per day of live kicking, if that makes sense. So it's not like that it'll statistically the percentage will be lower, but like if you look at it on a day-to-day basis, it isn't as bad as you would think. And McManus went like 100% last training camp, and then he was like borderline unplayable throughout the regular season.
Right. The mystery with McManus will be how much that injury he suffered in the middle of the year impact his effectiveness when we needed him the most. So yeah, it's
right.
Yeah,
I forgot about
kicking
that.
is such a weird thing. It's skill, but luck, but confident. It's definitely an art, not a science. So it's going to be interesting just to see kind of how he progresses. But I would say, for my bottom line and my take is, family night made me feel better about him. Thursday will help me decide whether I trust him. We're going to see what happens this week. So
true. That will be a big test. Keeping it kind of in a flow here, offensive line. I have a multitude of takes on this one. I want to first off say that Jordan Morgan, we should not be concerned about anymore. I think he is going to be a great left tackle, and he showed that through family night, and especially in the one-on-ones. Second thing, Belton was not good. It was more down than up from Belton that day. I think he had 1 or 2 reps that he might have exceeded on, but other than that, it was like he was like food for every edge rusher.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you boil it down. I think that right guard position is the kind of the battleground on that starting offensive line that we need to kind of watch between Anthony Belton, Jagger Burton, even Jacob Monk. I know he's a polarizing name here, but he's been getting a lot of votes of confidence from the coaching staff during training camp. So I think between those 3 guys, which again, Belton stock kind of going down a little bit, it's going to be interesting to see if he can bounce back or Jagger Burton takes that opportunity as a rookie to step in and play that guard position. So I completely am aligned with you for Belton having a really rough, not just a family night, but I think he's had a pretty tough training camp too.
But the whole interior as a whole has struggled, I think. Ryan's actually been pretty steady, but when you look whoever they've inserted at that right guard spot has had issues because a couple times through family night, Monk and Burton got beat badly by like guys like Brinson, Brooks. They were just kind of getting walked back into Jordan's lap.
Yeah, and that's sort of what we talked about last episode when I kind of mentioned that it definitely seemed like there was a consistent theme of pressure coming into Jordan's into his lap. And it makes you wonder as training camp goes and as these preseason games kind of happen is, does Goody and the staff look at other names out there in free agency, definitely maybe some older guys that are available. I think it's something that we probably need to look at. Hopefully we don't have to because some guys step up and it gets solidified. But even with the left guard spot there in Banks and his injury history, there's definitely some question marks in the interior that may need to be addressed with names outside of the room today.
You're very intrigued by Kevin Zeitler, aren't you?
Former Wisconsin Badger, how can I not, right? Would love to have him come in.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I forgot
former
about that.
Badger, I would never say no to a former Wisconsin Badger coming to Green Bay, especially, and we could probably spend a lot of time talking about different names. I think he would bring a veteran presence into that room. Because if you think about it, outside of Aaron Banks and I guess Zach or ZBB, he's got some veteran presence, but the room kind of lacks that older presence like Elton Jenkins kind of had, right? Yeah, that he's departed. So maybe just bringing an older guy from a veteran standpoint and helping mesh those younger guys together could be a possibility. But we'll see. Hopefully, one of the guys that are there today can step in and fill the void. But the fact we're talking about it now.
Zeitler might be the best free agent left on the market. I can't remember who's available.
Yeah, I need to do some digging too, but he's the name that's been kind of popped up, I think, just given his Wisconsin ties, like I talked about, and he's still playing at a fairly high level too.
Taylor Decker, if you want to kick him inside. Same thing with Jack Conklin, Cam Robinson.
Yeah, and I think you're proving a good point where, you got to think about it too. A lot of these older vets, they probably don't want to go through a training camp, right? They're probably at home, they're staying in shape. Definitely staying in shape, and they're ready for an opportunity, but they're probably waiting for that phone call towards the middle to end of August and getting them up to speed. It's not going to take much to get a veteran up to speed within, how the offense works. And so it's something to keep an eye on because we cannot afford poor offensive line play, especially given that, all the things we're hearing about with Matt LaFleur saying that this is the year Jordan Love's going to unleash. We need to have an offensive line in front of him to protect him, or else Jordan Love's going to be running for his life. And I think we all are pleading for a year of 17 games, unless we clinch, the division very early, but 17 games of available Jordan Love. And it all starts in the interior. So let's hope we can find some ways to clog or to fill some of those voids that we're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm. And I think the addition of Banks and Zach Boele when healthy and for the regular season will help solidify this and kind of decrease the inconsistencies. When you think about it, last year, Zach Boele missed a bunch of time and Aaron Banks was in and out of the lineup, and he was playing better when he was healthier. So there is hope there. It's been described. Offensive line play has been described to me as like an MLB pitching rotation where you need to have like your ace and then everybody else behind that, if they're good pitchers, is just like benefit or icing on the cake. We were without our ace for a while with Zach Boele being out. So if he's able to stay healthy this whole year, that would be a big improvement to the offensive line as well. Another area from family night, which could be a little concerning to viewers, is the tight end room. I think Castle's impressed me. He's the only tight end who was recently brought in who has shown promise and is still kind of on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, the room is I feel like we're running out of bodies, so it's almost hard to even get a feel for the room. Obviously, Tucker Kraft is ramping up. We're not going to expect him at all, for any significant playing time during preseason outside of training camp. So yeah, I mean, really, I'm curious to see which of these younger guys are going to step in, whether it's Swinson, whether you mentioned Castles as a name to look at. I don't even know what to make of it until we watch the game or watch these preseason games unfold. And to your point, Zach Ertz is intriguing, right? He kind of has that same skill set as Luke Musgrave. And, we've been hearing about Luke Musgrave with a neck injury. When you hear about neck injuries, it makes you nervous because you don't know the severity, whether it's a short-term or long-term thing. And even before the neck injury, I think we were all kind of maybe looking to move ahead from the Luke Musgrave experience anyways. So the tight end room is sneaky room to watch to see what kind of names can surface to kind of steady the ship, because it's been a rough summer in that room.
It's a real bummer that John Fitzpatrick tore his Achilles last year, because he would have been much needed this year. I think Dabney has shown some promise. If there's anybody of like the next group, if you're looking at it in groups, as like Kraft and Wiley are for sure on the roster, Musgrave's on the bubble, and then of the next group, you've got like Castles, Dabney, Swinson, Yasmin is I think the IPP player now, so he'll be on the practice squad no matter what. I think Swinson's kind of the odd man out of that next group. He's struggled with some pass pro. I like what I'm seeing from Dabney.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I've been seeing lots of notes on Dabney and his run blocking ability. It just depends on what the staff's looking for. Do they want more of a pass catcher? Do they want someone that's more of a run blocking type tight end? Or obviously in a perfect world, you get both, like a Tucker Kraft who does well in both. But it's just going to be interesting to see. And I think the other thing we talked about too with Bo Melton is special teams. Which of these third and fourth tight ends can provide some actual impact on the special team side? Maybe that's where they earn the roster spot. But I know you want to talk Zach Ertz, so let's talk Zach Ertz.
Exactly. I did want to talk Zach Ertz for a second. It's interesting because he's coming off an ACL tear, so you don't know what his market's like and if he's ready to go and he needs to ramp up. He's been working out with Andrew Luck, his college QB. That's something that intrigues me. But as you pointed out, the special teams value, if you can run down in punt coverage and make a tackle or two, or even as like a protector in field goal protect, punt protect, that would add so much value to your roster. And that's a sneaky way of judging the roster bubble for these tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to your point with Zach Ertz and ACL, it's a guy, if you can get him for vet minimum or maybe an incentive laden deal, I think he's worth the wild card to bring in. Obviously, this is assuming Tucker Kraft comes back and looks rock solid. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how that room progresses throughout the rest of training camp. And we pray that the injury bug in that room can probably hopefully slow down, because we're running out of bodies, and I feel like we're bringing in new guys every week to join that room, which makes it hard from a continuity standpoint too. So definitely something to look out for.
It's been like depth corners and depth tight ends, or depth corners and safeties and depth tight ends that have just been like being churned over.
Yes, and lots of receivers too. A lot of receivers been coming in and out, which I've noticed. But
true,
we're at such a weird time of the year where I think they're maybe just throwing some bodies in there to get different looks at different types of guys, and it's going to be hard to know what they're doing until we see some of this initial preseason action, and maybe get some more clarity on some of these injuries too, because it also makes you wonder, and they work out a bunch of receivers, is there bigger injury concerns? I know Golden and Reed missed practice this week, but then he came back today on August 11th, so there's so much intrigue. It's hard to even know what's going on half the time too.
Two last things about Family Night I wanted to talk about. The first one being the run game. The second one is Anthony Campbell, but we'll start with the run game. I thought that there were both sides of the run game coin. One, they couldn't get anything going, and when they did get something going, there was like a massive hole, or a running back like Damian Martinez just made a good play to the outside and took it for like 40.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aligned with you. I mean, feast or famine kind of felt right. I think my biggest takeaway is Marshawn Lloyd had some significant touches and came out healthy. Every time he touched the ball, I recall a play where he had a very sharp cut in the backfield and it looked a little weird. And I was like, oh man, please don't hobble up or, limp around. And he jolted right back up and was ready for the next play. So I think my biggest takeaway is just seeing Marshawn Lloyd get some touches, getting him confident in the run game. Obviously, Josh Jacobs didn't really participate. I think he's battling a groin injury, if I'm not mistaken. Who knows what that looks like, but it sounds like he's going to be out for perhaps a week, which I think gave good opportunity to the other guys. But a lot of my energy and attention was focused on Marshawn Lloyd, just given the amount of buzz he's been getting at camp and just his story, right? We talked about that last episode. It's been just a brutal injury-laden career for him, and he's very well thought of in the locker room. Somebody that actually, in the Green Bay community is very well known to go out and just be a voice of the Packers and be good to the people that support him. And he has every reason to be a guy that just to be a sour individual for the horrible luck he's been getting. So I hope that he's turned it around, and looking forward to seeing how, these reps he's getting are huge, and seeing his confidence grow as perhaps the second running back, and maybe Chris Brooks. I know he's coming back as well as that running back 3, but I would say those are kind of my takeaways.
I will say that I think Marshawn Lloyd has some room to improve in the pass protection game, but he can do it, and it's been reported on that he's been doing it pretty well through practice. But if we flip the coin to where that they had nowhere to go, that defensive line has been standing out pretty well throughout all of practice. And one guy in particular who's been a little fun to watch has been Anthony Campbell. He's kind of been everywhere. What are your thoughts? Do you think he actually finally cracks the roster bubble? Actually, I might have asked you this last episode. But
no, I mean, Anthony Campbell, he's really making a name for himself, and he's pretty much putting the force in the hand of the coaching staff to make a tough decision, right? And that's what you want to see in the room. Again, he showed out again at Family Night. Between him, Chris McClellan, those are two names I've been watching closely. Obviously McClellan a little more so, just because he's that second round draft pick that we or third round pick that we got that we've been watching closely as well. But Anthony Campbell, we need bodies up front. I mean, we felt the pain last year when Wyatt went down. We brought in Hargrave this offseason, which he's been battling injuries. Interior seems to have a lot of fluctuation with guys in and out of the lineup. So if we have a guy like Campbell who can step in, he probably won't be, if he makes the roster, definitely not going to be a day one starter by any means, but solid depth and a guy that has some upside. I mean, who says no to that? So I'm hoping to see him continue this momentum as we move into the preseason games. But yeah, I'm singing his praises right along with you, man.
Yeah, it's been a lot of guys who we've thought would take developmental steps that actually have taken developmental steps, along with McClellan, who's come in as a rookie right away and shown promise. I'm very interested to see what he can do throughout the preseason game and what other trench players like Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson can do in this preseason game. And like, speaking of it, I kind of want to get your 3 things that you're most looking forward to seeing throughout the preseason or throughout this preseason game, or what like you're the most anxious about finding out from this first Pittsburgh preseason game.
First of all, my gripe with this preseason game, the NFL dropped the ball on this. Why is this game not in Green Bay? You got Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers. We've just played in Pittsburgh last year. What a cool moment it would have been for this game to be in Green Bay. Probably would have been the most expensive preseason ticket in the last 15 years, but I digress. I would say, for me, it's really about, LaFleur mentioned Jordan Love's going to get some reps. I do want to see him out there. I want to see him with this receiving core with some new faces, and Romeo Doubs not in the picture anymore. Are we going to see Christian Watson and Reed and Golden? I know there's been some injuries around with Golden and Reed, but whatever that room looks like, I just want to see Love out there for a couple series just to kind of see what LaFleur has in store for him and just to get his feet wet too. I don't know where you're at, Matt, with regards to sitting starters and playing them. I'm a believer in the camp where you should get some reps, and because I do not want week 1 at Minnesota to be some of the first under the gun reps for some of our key starters, especially your quarterback with some new guys around him. But yeah. I will say, if there's any doubt with that offensive line, then you sit them. We need to feel solid about those front 5 guys, because I think the last thing we want to see is have some broken protections and Love's in danger. Where are you at with Jordan Love playing on Thursday?
I think I always agree with giving the starters a drive. There are certain players that I would sit out the preseason games, but just kind of like for like health/injury management or like load management reasons. The first of which being Josh Jacobs. I don't think he'd see a snap throughout the preseason. There's no reason for him to play. I would not play Zach Bakabawele till probably the 3rd week of preseason. And then on the defense, like, what you have out of like Coop, X. There's no reason that they need to play in the preseason.
Yeah, I'm curious with the defense, what starters show up, just because you got to remember too, it's kind of been like a low key, quiet story, which probably hasn't been talked enough about, is we have a new coordinator and a new scheme. So yes, we have veterans on that side of the ball, but I wonder what the value of having some game reps are, making the calls, making the signals, understanding where guys need to be. And of course, I know in the preseason, it's going to be probably very vanilla coverages that we're going to be putting out there. But I think there's something to having a new coordinator, and you have Zaire Franklin. I think he's going to be wearing the green dot. I don't know if it's going to be him or Coop.
He is going to be wearing the green dot. And my inkling towards like keeping Coop on the field for nickel, they just pull an edge rusher off and they'll put Coop on the edge. That way you get both Franklin and Coop on the field. But having a player like Zaire is the smartest Mike we've had in a while. That will help with the formations. And he's a pretty vocal guy. He's been calling stuff out in practice, like letting you know, hey, you're the wrong spot. He's that kind of leader. So I'm not worried about him getting snaps in the preseason, like the starters for the defense, as much as I need to see who's going to step up as the depth players in case of an injury.
No, and I'm with you. And obviously health is paramount. If there's any risk of these guys that they're feeling a little banged up or anything like that, obviously you sit them. I think I just want to see some of the key offensive guys, getting into a rhythm for a series or two, and then you let Tyrod Taylor come in for a couple of series. I think what's an interesting thing is looking at that QB3 battle between Kyle McCord and Drones. I'm interested to see how that transpires, because I suspect we'll keep, obviously Taylor's locked in as QB2. It'd be a shock if he gets, but obviously that practice squad spot is important. And again, we don't want to see Jordan Love hurt, but in his time starting, he has missed a few games for various different reasons. So that QB3 battle is actually something to kind of keep an eye on, which we'll see how many people are actually watching the game by the 3rd, 4th quarter, because I know those preseason games could be a drain to watch. but I'm actually intrigued to see kind of between McCord and Drones.
I'll be glued to my screen.
Right. I mean, we will, absolutely.
I think McCord has a slight edge just based off experience. The preseason, Drones is the bigger arm. He's a little more fearless. You've seen that through camps where Drones will make a little bit more mistakes, but that's okay. Going back to my defensive point, actually, there is one group of starters who I would play. I kind of treat like preseason snaps as like, show you're the guy, and then you're rewarded with not playing the rest of the preseason. So I would play LVN the entire time until he starts like saying, I'm better than everyone else as an edge rusher here, and then you pull him off.
LVN, I need to chew on that a little bit. I kind of like that. He needs, I feel like it just like to help him build his confidence, if anything, just to like kind of, he needs reps, and he was so banged up last year. I think he had was it a foot injury? I can't recall. I think it was something lower body where it took away some time from him last year. So he's got, and we're gonna.
Broke his foot, I think.
He's going to be critical in these first few weeks, with Micah going to, I think Micah just talked with the NFL Network, which I think is ESPN now or whatever, but they say he was very firm at middle of October is when he expects to be back. So that's, a few games where we need LVN to be our horse on the edge rushing side of things. So between him and Warren Brinson and Baron Sorrell, I think those three names are interesting to watch in this preseason game. I'm really particular on seeing what Baron Sorrell does. I know we talked about him last episode. I think he's poised for a breakout kind of year, but we got to see it in the game. And I know Warren Brinson's a guy you've been very high on as well.
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie to you. That's a little bit of bias bleeding through and wanting to see him succeed. You're a Badgers guy. I'm a Bulldogs guy.
At least you got guys in the NFL. Wisconsin's not putting a lot of NFL guys out there lately. But
true.
Hey, that's it.
You've had a couple good ones.
There's more coming.
You've had a couple good ones. When they come out, they come out pretty good. Dude, Baron Sorrell is so intriguing to me as like an athletic profile. You've kind of got, look at the arms on the guy. He's strong for an edge rusher, but he's not like the quickest edge rusher, so that might limit his production, but he's starting to develop a pass rush plan and a pass rush bag. I think the sky's the limit, but I mean, again, you were drafted in the fourth round for a reason, so
no, it's put up or shut up time now, which is what I love about that first preseason game. It's like those training camp clips only take you so far. It's like now we're finally going to see this in game action, and I think the key here too is it's one thing being a stalwart at camp where you're going against the same guys every day. You kind of have an idea what the other side's going to do. Now you're going to be put into a position where you're playing against guys you do not play against frequently, if at all, and going against plays that you don't really know what's coming, and it's going to kind of separate the guys that are practice stalwarts to guys that really have a chance to hit that 53. If not the 53, but even the practice squad now, right? It's a very expanded role now.
It's going to be good tackles too. They're going to be going up against good tackles in Pittsburgh with a combination of Troy Fontenot, Broderick Jones, Max Ionicor, and Dylan Cook. Like, three of those guys are high draft picks, so they're going to be good offensive tackles to prove yourself.
Have you heard anything? I haven't followed Pittsburgh. So are they planning on playing a lot of their starters, or?
I think Aaron might get like a couple snaps. Let me do some research here. Mike McCarthy, I think, spoke to the media today.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting just to see. I mean, if Pittsburgh's playing a lot of their stars, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of, and we mentioned LVN already, but that's another opportunity if you're going against some of the ones on Pittsburgh's side. While you're pulling that up, I think regardless of who's starting or not, I think, again, we talk about Trace Mack, big opportunity, big chance for him. I'm curious to see how he's going to perform. And one thing that I was actually thinking about is obviously we're so focused on the field goal kicking, but remember the new kickoff rules. I want to see how Smack can kick and do directional kicks off the tee. Can he get it in? Can he pin the team inside the receiving team inside the 5 and with some hang time to kind of create some coverage?
That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, special teams is totally different in the pros than in college. And I think maybe that's an area we struggle with under Bisaccia, where we tried some new things, and I want to see what Smack's role can be, in the kickoff game, because I think there's something that we need to untap there.
It sounds like they might give the starters a little bit of run for Pittsburgh on their side.
We probably truly won't know till game day.
Matt said Yeah, we won't know till game day until they release the inactives, right? Do they have to do that for this?
I would assume they have something. It's so hard.
I can't remember.
I feel like the preseason is a lot more loose with the inactive lists and all the protocols in place. But I would suspect there's. I mean, you're going to see starters on both sides of the ball. I know there was some injuries that Pittsburgh's been going through on the offensive line, so maybe they're a little more cautious.
Robert Tanyan's on this team. So is Dean Larry. Wow, I forgot about that.
Throwback names there.
Yeah, of course, you gotta be cautious about injuries. So you probably won't see Bull won't play, ZBB won't play. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting. In the line, actually, and what's funny is I always think Vegas lines are funny for these games, but Packers are 1.5 point favorite on the road in Pittsburgh. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it actually opened. It opened as Pittsburgh as a favorite, and the line moved to Green Bay as a favorite. So it's so hard to tell, right, with what we're to expect. But
dude,
yeah,
it's wild.
Don't know how Vegas does it, but so at 6:00 kickoff on Thursday night from Pittsburgh. Again, I'm very bummed out this game is not in Green Bay. It would have made this game a lot more exciting, even though there's a lot of cool battles to look at. But any other last battles or anything that you're looking to find in this game, or any key takeaways you're looking for?
Yeah, I echo the same things you said. I think it's a very important game for Smack as his first live NFL kicking opportunities. The trenches will be an interesting one because even the depth on Pittsburgh's defensive front is very good. To see how our offensive line plays and kind of what our offensive line depth is like. I definitely think there's something there in Williams and Wade as depth pieces, and then this will be a good chance to kind of go out and prove it. And like you said, put up or shut up. This is where it shows up. Corners. This is something that's interesting for me. Damani Jackson won't play. Who is going to be that corner 4?
Yeah, I mean, St. Juste has done well. I think he's probably more that corner 3 or 4. I mean, so hard to tell, but I mean, St. Juste is a name that he needs to go out there and perform.
I think they play Keyshawn a lot.
Oh, I mean, he's been playing with the 2s in practice lately. I mean,
there's been an open training camp battle for once with him and St. Juste. But if it's Simpson is the big one that I'm going to be watching out at corner to see if he can actually hold up as an outside corner. Kamal Haddon, I don't know if he's healthy enough to play, but he'd be another one that I'd be looking at. So it's just who shows up at these depth spots. Yeah,
corner is a room I'm going to be watching closely, and it's one of those weird rooms where really none of the guys are going to be sitting in that room. They're all going to play, and they all need the time. So again, we'll see kind of what transpires there. I think a name that's interesting in there, is Carrington Valentine. How's he going to look? We talked about his tackling woes. He's been banged up. This preseason. We talked about last episode how Cisse is going to step, maybe took over for him. But again, with Keyshawn Nixon struggling, there's so much there. And I think one of the key takeaways I'm looking for is after that game is kind of, I want to pencil in what I think will be the two starting corners on the outside coming from that game. Because right now I don't feel confident outside of Cisse really. But again, we're feeling good about Cisse after some practices in a family night. So that could all change if he has a rough opening preseason game.
I think this defensive scheme really fits what St. Juste can do well. So I have faith in him as a corner too, especially if you decide to platoon him with Carrington Valentine and only having Carrington Valentine be the strictly cover corner and on obvious passing downs. So
I have one question for you, Matt, is when the game ends on Thursday, what would worry you? Obviously the score doesn't matter, but what would transpire in the game to make you feel worried about this team?
Caleb Johnson runs for 150 probably would worry me. If someone gets hurt and at a critical position.
Yeah, I'm with you on those.
Let's say Belton gets hurt trying to prove himself, that wouldn't be good. So I'm just looking at Pittsburgh's depth chart here.
Yeah, and I think for me, what would worry me, I think there's two things. One is that offensive line just as a whole. What does that interior look like? How do we feel about our depth? I want to feel like we have a pretty solid idea of what our depth's going to look like. And then really, to me, it comes back to the kicking game. I know we've talked a lot about a kicker, but I think I want to feel good.
Yeah, if Smack goes 0 for 4.
Yes, I just want to. I want to feel good about where he's at after that game. Just because first impressions are everything, And even in the game action for him, you don't want him to start off in a poor foot in a game action, or else I worry how he's going to kind of bounce back from that. So I would say those are the two things I'm going to be watching like a hawk. And the one player, and I would love to hear the one player, like if you had to think of one player to watch, the one player I'm closely watching is Jagger Burton. I want to see if he takes the opportunity at the interior and solidifies his name, especially like we talked about earlier with Belton struggling. Can he supplant him and be that right guard and look solid?
I'd probably say I'm watching. Oh, okay, wait. I'm going to answer this question for Blayne, and then I'll answer it for myself. Blayne's answer is Sturdivant. I'm going to be watching Hopper. I want to see what Hopper can do. I expect him to get a lot of run as Mike in the second half of the game. So to see how he improves and kind of has the command of the defense is very interesting to me. I like what you mentioned about Burton getting able to start, or hopefully probably starting and solidifying himself into the rotation. There's almost too many players to name. Like I could talk about like 12 different guys here.
Yeah, it's that time of the year, man. You got to pull out the old roster and look at all 90. I think it's like how many 90 plus names. It's
91 with IPP.
So the big fans, the people that are nerding out over this stuff. This is the stuff we love to watch on preseason coverage. So I'm excited just to see. There's always that one name that just pops out of nowhere, and I'm curious who that's going to be. Don't even know where to look, but I'm just hoping that, I'm excited just to see football on my TV again, seeing the Packers out there. It just one step closer to week 1 in Minnesota, who has, looks like we're going to be facing Kyler Murray, which is going to be a lot of intrigue going into that game.
I'm kind of less afraid of Kyler than I am JJ McCarthy in year 2, just because he's had the system.
And hey, we
longer.
got Jonathan Gannon used to coach Kyler, so I think we have a interesting little storyline going into that game too. I think Gannon might know a few things that he can do to shake Kyler.
Oh, for sure. But also when we think about our defensive linemen getting up and batting passes, when you're trying to bat passes from like a 5'10" quarterback, it's a lot easier.
Very good point. So, oh man, I'm ready for football. I don't know about you, Matt, but
me too. It's been too long. It's been too long. Anyway, we'll find out a lot of the answers to these questions after Thursday. I'd like to thank Justin for hopping on the show. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We're going to have more collab episodes in the future.
Absolutely.
And this is it from Matt and Justin. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Beyond the Frozen Tundra.
To Packers fans coast to coast, thanks for going beyond the frozen tundra. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, go Pack Go!